Brian Wong, we have just spent an hour, 2 hours of our time with Brian White and Jordan Giesecke and a bunch of other folks doing a streaming version of the
Tesla earnings call live.
earnings call live. I guess you would call it the I was going to say the earnings report and then the earnings call. So we'll be repeating some things. I think at least I will. You possibly have completely new and fresh things to say,
Yeah.
but for those of you who were not on that call, I want to start off with this. I think to me, it wasn't even close in terms of what was important, and it's also something that even though you watch the show all the time, you may not really realize the complete epiphany that I had like 4 months ago, which resulted in a book being written. So I think it was watching Peter Diamandis and his crew. And one of them said, and it might not have been, it could have been B2G or the All Ins or whatever. I can't remember for sure. But one of them said that the company, the hyperscaler that controls the stack
Mhm.
is the one that's probably going to win the day.
Mhm.
Because if you're missing any piece of the stack that you're not in control of, that means somebody's in control of you.
Mhm. Right.
And so we've divided the stack into 8 pieces that I'm sure other people might divide it into 7 or 9 or whatever. But we basically divided that stack into everything from mining and refining to actual energy supply, to the data centers themselves, to the chips that are in the data centers, to the inference capabilities. I mean, all this kind of stuff. We divided in these eight pieces. And 50% of the book, the back half, by the way, of the book, 50% of the book is devoted to the stack. And what is the one thing about Tesla? Tesla is the only company that controls their entire stack. They've got it all. They're vertical 100% of the way. Now, that doesn't mean every single element of every single product is controlled, but there's nobody comes close to them with regard to controlling stack. What do you think?
Yeah. So they are getting significant control over the most important AI chip, which is the inference chip. They have control of the chip for Robotaxi now, but that chip is becoming the Robotaxi slash inference chip. And the usage of the chips in AI is going to be predominantly for inference and delivering the real world value. So the training part of it is going to decline, but they have the most AI training now, and getting it up to a level that the competitors are really looking at 2030 to get there. Because Meta just announced a deal for their Hyperion AI data center, which will not be completed until 2030. They'll start getting pieces of it done in 2028 and 2029, where the power will be there. But without the power, then you can't really power the chips. So there's delays for the other guys to get to the scale that they have. But anyway, but to your point, control of the inference is where the next battle will be. And they're going to go from, a gigawatt of AI training to 10 gigawatts and 100 gigawatts of AI inference from the chips that they control.
And interestingly, I didn't know this. I'm not sure he's ever said it before. The AI4 chip right now is being used in Tesla data centers
Mhm.
for as an inference chip.
Mhm.
It's good enough. The AI4 chip is already good enough. And then he also went further and said that the AI5 chip will be made by both Samsung and by NVIDIA.
And
That
TCMC,
that that I'm huh?
TSMC.
ASMC. TSMC. And that, I think that was news making also, that they're going to have two resources on that. And then he didn't go further. He didn't say whether Samsung will be alone on the AI6 or whether potentially TSMC will be making that as well.
Right. I think it's a question of if he needs more, and if Samsung can deliver the volume, then he'll tap both
Right.
in order to do it.
Yeah. So I thought that part of it was, it's a little bit in the weeds, but I think it's really, really at the core. And of course, what that also plays into is that Tesla is leading like on a completely different level when it comes to any kind of AI that is embodied, that's in a robot, that's in a car. Yeah, other people, have cars that are being managed somewhat by AI, but for the most part, I think Waymo, for instance, I think that's still probably a lot hard coded, don't you?
Definitely, I think it's a lot hard coded, and it's sensor dependent too. They're depending upon the sensors, so their AI is weaker. To the point of how many chips on the AI 5, AI 6 end of things, he did give um, a forward-looking statement about Optimus. And Optimus needs at least one of the AI 5 or AI 6 chips in it. And that is that 1 million Optimus 3 starting the end of next year, that they're going to get their 1 million per year thing. Don't say how long it take to ramp it up, but probably about a year, maybe longer. And then they would transition to Optimus 4 and get to about 10 million of those, and then an Optimus 5 with 100 million. So those would be those 100 million would then also be able to do AI inference as well. That you have all of your robotaxis doing AI inference, all your Tesla vehicles, as well as Optimus getting to those huge numbers. So the inference, the AI5, AI6, and Optimus are all tied together as the primary future of Tesla around 2027, 2028 and onwards. That is where the bulk of what they're doing is going.
Yeah, and I think that's you brought that up with Brian's show there, and I think you need to explain it again on this show. So we've talked about it on the show. You and I have talked about it on the show that this inference capability in the cars, where it be like a distributed inference. And ultimately maybe in the robot, I mean, it'll be in the robots and it'll be wherever these chips are. But in the robots, I see those as a lot of those are going to be working 24/7. They may not have the downtime, but for the cars, obviously they're going to have downtime when these inference chips uh, uh, could be could be part of a giant computer worldwide, so to speak. But talk about the financial aspects, which you just talked about a minute ago.
So one thing is that, oh, sorry, I think they're over engineering for um, what Tesla bought and what Robotaxi need.
Okay.
If they were only saying, I only want to solve safer than human Robotaxi, or I only want to solve for a bot that can do the tasks around the home or in the factory, they would not need AI6 for sure, and they probably don't need 80% of the AI5 chip. That extra compute is not needed for those normal functions of those the bot and the car. So they're doing that because they want to have AI inference as a service, where basically they can send out compute tasks to the bot and to the car. So they said that Elon described that the car, even under Robotaxi, having more usage than a regular car, say 4 times, 5 times more. That's still, you're going from 10 hours to 50 hours. So 168 hours a week, you still have 110 hours to do other things, right? So they're saying, okay, we'll use that compute for the other services and we'll pay you for that thing. And then the bot is not going to be using its bot brain. It could be doing tasks all the time, but even that, it's not going to be like constantly in motion doing things, right? And then the brain part of it, just like they keep saying that human brains only use
Yeah.
10% of their brain for whatever we're doing, that 90% is not used or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That's the same thing for the bot. That 90% of the brain will not be used most of the time. And so it can be multitasking, thinking about these other tasks. For the financial part of it is that let's look at the $27 billion data center that Meta is funding called Hyperion in Louisiana. So they got some big fund to chip in a bunch of money, and then they're building out this massive data center, which will take 2 gigawatts, 2.2 gigawatts. So Entergy, a utility, is going to put in 3 natural gas turbines, each one generating about 700 megawatts, 750 megawatts for this facility. So they'll take until 2028 to install the first two, and then 2029 to install the last one, and then they'll put in chips for that. So this massive spend, and then I dump in the chips to do this data center. And let's say it's for inference,
Right.
right? Then you're looking at 500,000, maybe a million chips, probably 500,000. Well, no, probably a million chips they could put for this facility. So then, conversely, if you have 20 million Tesla bots, and each have 20 million of the AI6 chips by 2030, right? Then that could have a kilowatt per, so like 20 gigawatts of compute in devices that other people bought and paid for. And then they can then send out these compute tasks. And if you have a kilowatt, my solar panels on my roof can then power up my facility and have distributed power. So I have to build a new grid because they have to spend $1.2 billion on a new main power line for that as part of the meta build. So all this extra infrastructure, billions and billions of dollars to build the power and grid extensions and stuff like that is not needed for 10 times more compute
Yeah. Yeah.
for these other facilities.
Right. So it's kind of free
It's kind of
because
free, yeah.
because the reality is that there's no upfront cost.
Right,
There's no energy cost.
right,
There's no water and cooling cost.
right,
There's no chip costs.
right.
So the only thing that you have is the ongoing, the what do you want to call it, the
Operational cost.
operating cost. But the operating cost is probably a lot less than the operating cost for one of those data centers. Oh yeah, you don't have the land, you don't have the factories. Anyway, so
And that operating cost is from the customers that you're buying it from.
right, exactly, for a penny at whatever,
Right. So you're paying it by giving the cut
Yes,
of,
yes,
of the profits,
right.
but it's the costs are being offloaded to other people. It's kind of like the Uber thing of like you bring your own car into our network,
Yeah.
right? So that's how they were able to beat taxis.
Mhm.
It's the Airbnb Uber model of someone else is getting the asset.
No, or the power wall, the
Virtual
virtual
power
power.
plant.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. Where someone else buys it, I'm making it, but then
Mhm.
you're paying for it and buying
Mhm.
it, installing it.
Right.
Then I'm able to use it and
Right.
help you monetize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Very, very cool.
And then the numbers again would be if you have 20 million bots, that's $250 billion worth of AI inference data center. If I have 100 million bots and they're talking about it, whether it's 2030, 2031, whatever, that would be $2.5 trillion worth of compute.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then another thing that stood out to me was their production capacity.
Mhm.
Right now, they're sitting at production capacity of under 3 million,
Yeah.
and it would take until the end of 2027 to get to that 3
3
million run
million.
rate with existing facilities.
Right.
That is way lower than I thought it was. Now
Yes.
that's 60%, I guess more like 60% higher than current production capacity.
Right.
But he said that in order to get over that 3 million, they got to build.
Right.
And so my conclusion out of that, and he said that as soon as, and this sounds like Randy has been saying this for a long time, once you have unsupervised, it's over, folks.
Mhm.
Nobody's going to want a car that's not unsupervised. And how did he put it? He says, as soon as you're able to text,
The demand will be nutty.
the demand will be nutty. If you're
Yeah.
able to text while you're going, that's
Yeah.
all. Nobody's going to care about anything else. Can I
Right.
use my smartphone?
Yeah.
That's it. Doesn't matter if you have entertainment. It doesn't matter whether you want to look out the window. Can I use my smartphone? Anyway, so he said, as soon as you can use your smartphone while you're driving
Safely.
safely,
Yeah.
then everybody's going to want that car.
Right.
And he says, so we need to start building as many cars as we can.
Right.
Well, if as many cars as we can, it's only 3 million, and I'm sure, and he obviously thinks there's more possibility than that, then I think we have to break ground by mid-year. I mean, I'm sorry, by mid 2026.
Right, right. Some new building doesn't buy new land per se,
Right.
but you could put in a new building into
Yes.
Austin
Right.
or into Berlin. Those are the places where they have the land.
Right.
Um, they did talk, which goes against what the Grace Tao, the VP in China, was saying, that they could double production there,
Yeah.
which would get you almost to 3 million as
Yeah.
well.
Right there.
And and so it's a question of like, how do you, you know, square the
I,
circle of like the difference between those two numbers?
yeah, I know. Yeah. I thought we had at least a million capacity in Texas. You got 600,000 in what do you call it? In
Berlin,
Fremont.
yeah,
That's 1.6. It got
yeah,
at least 500,000 in
Berlin,
Berlin.
yeah,
So now you're at 2.1.
right,
And we know we've got a million right now. They're doing a million in China. So that
right.
sounds to me like 3 million capacity without even breaking a sweat. But
Although he did say
what do I know?
it also said it had to be with suppliers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then how much
Right.
is a problem of suppliers? Because again, it's the weakest link
Right.
problem,
Supply chain. Right.
the supply chain, that the weakest link, like what is something they'll have a hard time getting. Because even if the factory capacity is there, because they did not increase the orders in order to do it,
Right.
then the suppliers didn't
Fine.
scale up to make it happen,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So what else did you see? Well, first of all, let's take a little break from what he said
Yeah.
to look at where we are on the market,
Okay.
just because, that's what everybody's going to care about, right? Is
Mhm.
what happened to their stock today?
Yeah.
Well, right now in the after hours, we're at 423.89. So that is a total of 4.25% lower than it was when we opened this morning. Now, that does not mean that we're going to be at exactly 424 tomorrow morning when the stock market opens, because the big players will have had a chance to absorb all this and try to decide what it really means. And some of those big players, or the day traders, et cetera, will potentially have other ideas. Um, but generally speaking, I would say right now it doesn't look too bad considering we had a miss. So for those of you who didn't see the earnings call, didn't see the earnings reports, there was a miss. And the miss was basically, I think it came down to energy. There's a miss on energy, and not because there wasn't an increase in total dollars. There was an increase in total dollars, and there was even an increase in margins. But I think they're selling them for less per gigawatt hour. The big mega packs must be selling for less per gigawatt, or maybe the mix was different this time. So that was one of the places where I saw a miss of even the entire 3 cents that was missing. There was a little bit of a miss on Bitcoin, but not. It was hard to come up with without penny at a time why this number was so much lower than a lot of us thought it was going to be.
I think they also had to spend or chose to spend more on some SG&A and R&D. I think they spent a bit more there. And
Right.
then there was also issues on the reg credits
Right. Yes.
being substantially down.
It
And I think
wasn't that substantial though. That was my point. Is kind
yeah,
of like I thought that was going to be down by 150 million, but it was only down by I think about 50 million, roughly. Yes, don't
right.
don't write that down. It
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. And then there was some other stuff where they said that the um, revenue recognition on FSD
Oh yes,
was
yes.
reduced because of Cybertruck and
Not
something
getting
else not having the full
updates.
FSD user.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was a fairly substantial amount of money.
Yeah,
So altogether, though, I think a lot of people play this game of how they rate a stock. They base it on free cash flow, and free cash flow was phenomenal. It's
right.
for another 4 billion for one quarter. Now, a lot of that was the fact that they drew down a lot of inventory. That's going to have to that they can't stay at these inventory levels. So I'm guessing the free cash flow won't be this good in fourth quarter. But for those who are looking at free cash flow, got to be pretty happy that we're now at like 42 billion in cash and cash equivalents.
Going back again to the 3 million car question,
Yeah,
um, Elon said that they weren't going to cut margins to move the cars.
right.
So that was clear that, whatever they do is going to be with margin. So they're
Right.
going to, they are going to sell more lower price vehicles. They did mention that in the deck where they said that they're still looking at more lower price vehicles um, that will sell more volume, but they did not. So they're not going to do that by when they decontent or do something. They're not going to cut margins.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like they're going to keep the margins where they are. 15% or whatever auto margins or 20% auto margin. They're going to try and
Yeah, I
keep
think
some of
the
them.
I think the margins came in a little higher than expected at 18%, but remember about 2.5 to 3% of that is these ZEV credits, and those are slowly but surely, at least the United States version of them are going away. Europe and China, other places have some ZEV credits as well, which we don't know uh, what'll happen with those.
So then the other big things were around a lot of things were said about FSD and a lot of things said about Robotaxi. So Robotaxi, besides the miles, which I pointed out, did I point out here?
No, no, not yet.
So they said that 1 million miles, over 1 million miles from the San Francisco Bay Area, which they
Mhm.
only started doing end of July. So really, and like the very last day of July. So like August, September, and then now part of October. So kind of like 10 weeks max for that. And you would think there's some kind of ramp on that. So they did very little in the beginning and then did a lot more in the last month. So
So that's
this,
quite a few cars.
yeah, and this was nearly 20 times more than 7,000 miles that they did at the end of Q2. Like I said,
Right.
okay, Q2
Right.
we did 7,000 miles. So a tiny number, and now you go almost 20x more. So then you're probably looking at half your miles in the last 4 weeks, which would be about 600,000, 700,000 miles, which would be 200,000, 150 to 200,000 miles per week, which gets you close to the 250,000 a week being 10% of Waymo. Waymo saying
Mm.
they're doing
Mm.
2.5 million miles. So that would probably need about 100 cars total. So I would
Okay.
say like 70 cars in the Bay Area, 30 cars in Austin, um, and could be more if they're needing to spread them out in terms of not getting as much usage out of each car as Waymo does.
One thing that was really interesting, and it answered a question I think almost everybody had, and that is, how does this whole process work in the future? And he'd kind of hinted at this last quarter, and now we know pretty much for sure, is that this is going to be the way that every city rolls out, at least for some time.
Right.
So there's going to be maybe a safety driver, followed by a safety rider, and then the safety rider
Mhm.
goes away.
Right.
Low commitment in terms of units, then more commitment, and then uh, major commitment. So it's not going to be like I kind of believed. It's not going to be, okay, we've got it in Austin, so now just go.
Right.
And he literally said that is not what we're going to do.
Right.
And he repeated what, 4 times? Um, Safety, safety, safety. He said,
Right.
we're just being so cautious.
Right. And he said 3 months roughly.
Yeah.
So it will be have the safety driver slash safety monitor for 3 months in an
Mhm.
area.
Mhm.
Be sure we're not missing anything, and then we remove them. And
Right.
they also said that they would remove the safety monitor for Austin likely by the end of this year. So December of this year, they would remove the safety monitor, which at that point, then if they're confident, they could pretty quickly in a month or two 10x the number of vehicles there because then
Sure.
they
Sure.
wouldn't be constrained on the vehicle. They could even 100x the number of vehicles. So that's when the exponential thing really shoots up. And they also said they would have 8 to 10 metro areas. So they currently have two metro areas, San
Right.
Francisco and Austin.
Right.
But then they said they would get Nevada, so you have Vegas, Reno, and then you have uh,
Florida.
Florida, and then Arizona,
Mhm.
and then probably some other places as well.
Right.
And also, we know that they want to go to Los Angeles, and then probably some other metro areas in Texas. We have that tracking thing showing where they're likely going. But then there would be tiny numbers there, and then the big numbers would be in the more mature SF Bay area, Austin areas to get to the bigger numbers.
Yeah, so one of the things that kind of, if you start paying attention to the entire call and everything that happened, is that everything has, not everything, almost everything has been moved back.
Yeah.
So if we thought that there was going to be, lots of robotaxis by the end of this year, no, there's going to be lots of robotaxis by second quarter, maybe. If we thought there was going to be some Optimus working in the factory by the end of this year, no, there's going to be some Optimus working in the factory second quarter.
Mhm.
And just go down. And if we thought that they would sell, 3 million cars next year, no, they might get a run rate of 3 million cars by the end of 2027. So there was a whole, yeah, and I think, no, I think the semi truck, we pretty much knew that. Oh, but there was one thing on the semi truck. They didn't, they didn't even hesitate on the autonomy there. It's
Oh,
like,
for the
oh,
semi truck, yeah, yeah,
yeah, no, when we start making trucks, they'll be autonomous.
right,
I mean,
right,
that was pretty interesting.
right, right. Yeah, there was that, and then we talked about the 14.3, they drop you off, and then yeah, so the features on it, on the 14 and being able to use it, that they were pretty bullish on that it's going to work for all the vehicles, um, and they think they can probably get it, still a chance to get to work on hardware 3. But
Right,
they really will crunch on that after it's fully working Robotaxi for hardware 4.
right.
And then they'll follow up in a couple of quarters for that other
Yeah,
stuff.
they were saying they actually kind of gave us a projection. They said probably by March or April, no, second quarter,
Second quarter.
by second quarter, the hardware 3 people, will finally get their unsupervised FSD.
Well, I'm
So
on hardware 4, so
I know you're lucky.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
but
I'm the chosen one for 6 months or something. Yeah,
but I got to drive mine for so much longer.
right.
All right, so let's see what else was on the call. I was trying to think of what else that was important.
So Optimus, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. AI5 will be 2 to 10 times more energy efficient. He gave a lot of technical details
Right,
about it, how they removed things, the GPU is fully replaced.
right. In
Yeah,
fact, he says
so
it is a GPU.
it is a GPU. Yeah.
Right.
Um, he also talked about Megapack 4. So after Megablock, which is Megapack 3,
Mhm.
and has some transformer stuff, Megapack 4 will have more substation aspects to it. So so normally when you dump in a bunch of megapacks or energy storage of any kind, you have to hook it up to a transformer in order to step it up, and then you have substation, which would be able to connect you up to more of the grid in the power station. So by including substation, which is what I knew they had to do, transformer and substation, because those are a shortage, that they have to, a shortage transformer that could take you a year or 2 years to get it, and that delay could get even more with the AI data centers. And then the substation have to build. Again, on that Louisiana project, they're building 2 substations there. And that's, again, taking them an extra 4 years to do it.
Right.
So if you can make a megapack with substation, then one, XAI and Tesla have the advantage, and then everyone else will want to buy that from you because you can then do whatever power thing you want, and then have megapacks and storage that get you a lot of your operation of your AI data center faster. So then um, they will have demand off the hook for their megapacks that have substation capability. They're getting more and more into the future power grid. And
Right.
that's something that you need everywhere around the world.
Yes.
And they're competing against the utilities, slow moving utilities who don't have their own technology. They're depending upon old supply chain for
Mhm.
that. So again, the vertical integration, having control that you talked about, that they're going to have control of energy grid.
And one of the questions that had been put out by or by us, by the shareholders was, are you willing to sell the megapacks to the other hyperscalers? And not only willing, he said, we are we're trying to. It's like a major client that we want. So
Right, right.
so
And the demand is huge from
huge.
the
Yeah.
for AI hyperscalers
Right.
and AI data centers for their product.
Right. Right.
Right. So that is they didn't put a number to it, but it is a huge thing. And then again, just looking at it, there's 68 gigawatts of um, AI data center stuff going increasing to 100 gigawatts by 2030. And so that is if megapacks are 10% of that solution, that's like 10 gigawatts of that, which would be and it probably needs to be 8 hours. I think that was discussed by others. So if you have to do it for 8 hours, then even if you have 4 megawatt hours in your megapack or 20 megawatt hours or whatever, if you have to spread it out over 8 hours, you need to sell a lot more megapacks
Mhm.
in order to achieve that number. You probably need 1,000 per gigawatt, and then you need if you're doing 10 gigawatts, you need to sell like you know 10 to thousands of them in order to get to meet that demand.
Yeah, I don't know whether EOS has created the 8-hour demand or whether EOS saw and heard that people were asking for 8 hours, and that's why they're building an 8-hour unit. But now Tesla's units are going to be the ones that they're building in the new facility are going to be 4 hours. And Jordan Gieseke suggested that Tesla's planning to go to 8 hours, but he wasn't able to back that up with any receipts.
Well, I
So,
think I think the main thing is that if you think about it, like if I have solar and I'm generating power for 8 hours
right,
and I want to put, discharge it overnight, right?
right,
I
right.
want to have a full 8 hours. And really sometimes you may need 12 hours in order to go all
Right,
night without
right,
stopping.
right.
But then you have to charge up with twice as much solar in order to balance out
To do
the
that.
whole equation.
Yeah.
So it's just look at the use case you would need it. That I want to run my data center all night.
Hmm.
So then I need 8 to 12 hours of storage
Hmm.
if I'm depending a lot upon solar or some other kind of charging mechanism where I may not be able to charge constantly. Like I don't have a dedicated
Sure.
um, nuclear power plant shoving power in. If I'm taking power from other sources, um, I may not be able to charge during the day. I mean, if I'm getting power from a coal plant or a gas plant, I may only be able to charge at night. And again, I need to move that around in order to run my data center.
And in fact, as we're talking about it, now I realize the answer to my own question. They're not going to change. They're probably not going to change the mega packs they're making now in California because there's going to be plenty of applications where 2 hours is going to be fine.
Right.
So if you're putting it on the grid just as a balancing thing, you don't need the 4 hours or the 8 hours. Where you need it, although that is what EOS is doing, that's their main goal is to sell to the grid. In fact, the CEO of EOS was just on a podcast yesterday saying same thing Elon's been saying that we could double the current production in the United States, usable production in the United States by putting in enough batteries. So that's interesting. They both are both pitching that pitch.
Well, it's not that they're pitching it, it's that you can't build the power plants fast enough because
Right,
you have like a 7 year delay on getting another natural gas plant. I
right,
can't build a coal plant. I won't get permitted because of the pollution or whatever. And so then it's easier just to use the
right,
current what's already built,
right,
especially if I want to get a lot of power quickly. It's just the timing factor. There's no other way for me to give the AI data centers the power that they need other than just digging up more coal, getting more natural gas, and then shoving that into the existing facilities to get them running at 80, 90% instead of 50%. Right. So yeah.
So there's a lot of talk going into this particular meeting. I'm not talking about talk with me, talk with Brian, but rather talk in the journals, in the the people, the press, if you will, that this would be the time when the company is now perceived as an AI company rather than as a car company. And it was pretty interesting if you think about it. They didn't talk about cars at all. I mean, they talked about production capacity, but they didn't talk about, you know, are we going to make a better car? Are we going to make more? It was all about data. It was all about inference. It was all everything was about AI, about the bots. And so, yeah, I think this is the transition. And I think another piece of evidence is again that we're sitting here at 422.42 several hours after, again, maybe the morning will drop down to 400 or something. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen in the morning?
Um, it's looking pretty sticky around just above and below 440. That we're going as low as 420, maybe 410, and
Right,
then up
60.
to 450. That we're kind of going the sideways level. That until some major news breaks on that. So we have just a little over 2 weeks until the November 6th meeting.
Right.
So we'll see if there's a major news. I'm now less um, thinking it's less likely that there'll be that huge, massive news on November 6th. Although it just getting and winning the vote so that Elon's pay package is there, I think that itself is a catalyst.
Right. Right.
But it doesn't sound like um,
Well,
a flood.
we kind of got the layout.
Yeah,
We kind of know he really gave what people said was, please give us your future projections. And that's what he did. And maybe they're
yeah,
a little less than I'd like them to be in terms of the dates, but at
yeah.
least these are maybe more solid projections that he could have made a year ago because
Mhm.
now we're this close to the actual product being solved.
Right, right.
Not just the Robotaxi, but also Optimus. I mean, they're
Yeah.
this close to solving it.
And he said at the very beginning of the call that um, he was holding back increasing the production of various things
Right.
until it was solved.
Cars.
Cars,
Yeah.
cars. And
Yeah.
now he's saying, now we're going to increase it, not as fast as we would like, you and I would
Right.
like, but he's increasing it based on the confidence that these things are solved.
Right.
That basically the Robotaxi over the next 3 to 6 months, um, without driver, well, no driver, no
Yeah.
safety monitor
Right.
by the end of this year, that was when people would say, okay, now it's there.
Yeah.
And to get to bigger than Waymo, no safety driver, that is basically either December or at latest end of Q1
Yeah.
that they would put in the cars and no safety monitor, be bigger than Waymo. That's basically there. And then an even sharper ramp for the Bay Area.
Mhm.
Again, once that's out there. So basically, the full Robotaxi, it's all solved. A lot of cars, tens of thousands, by the middle of next year.
Right. 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 All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about from the call before we go to the numbers?
No.
Okay, let's go on to the numbers then. Besides, we already covered the numbers for Tesla. Now let's go on to the bonds, and the bonds down another 0.6% in the pre-market, 3,900, I'm sorry, 3.947, under 3.95. It is still rallying like crazy. That's really good news. By the way, I looked up the mortgages this morning, and mortgages went down another 5 basis points. So we're getting very, very close to 5.0. And for FHA and VA, they are already they're actually at 4.9, I'm sorry, 5.9, under 6% at 5.9 for both of those. So any thoughts on the bonds? No, okay. Oil actually bounced up like crazy today, a buck 52. And were you the one that said it, or somebody else told me that the president did announce he's going to start filling up the
Free
reserve?
reserve? No,
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that. No.
Okay. Yeah. So that I didn't confirm that. Let me know in the comments below if I got that right or wrong. I'll check with Grok later. But apparently, the president said he is going to start filling up the reserve, and basically he needs to do that because the oil companies are not going to be happy under 60 cents.
Mm.
So
Right.
he needs the price to come back up a little bit. Natural gas down the tad, but still sitting at 344. Now he's going to have to figure out a way to get the price of natural gas down.
Mm.
Gold. Okay, this is the best one. The best one's gold. So you know what I did, right? I said gold will see 3,400 before it sees 4,400.
Mm.
Now I admitted yesterday or the day before that my 4,400 number was I didn't do like any technical analysis, or no, it was just a gut feeling that 4,400 was going to be too. This was when it was at 4,000. And I'm like, no, 4,400, it's not going to go above 44. Do you know that twice it went to like 43.75?
Mm.
I'm counting that. Now, of course, we still haven't seen 3,400 yet, so I'm not right yet, but I'm directionally correct. Anyway, gold bounced back up now in the pre-market to 4104 after almost, I think it was under 4,000 earlier today, or very, very close to 4,000. So I mean, have you been following the gold thing at all to know?
So how much of the gold thing is the China purchases? So
Huge.
huge. So then it's not China individuals because China wouldn't let individuals buy it. It had to
No,
be
no, China individuals are also buying lots.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because why? They lost their other method. They used to buy real estate
Right.
as their savings, and now they're buying gold instead.
Right. So
But
is
that's not the big thing. The
right.
the central government and Poland and Turkey, South Korea a little bit, but a bunch of companies are increasing their reserves.
So would it be an indication that China and the United States are about to do a tariff deal? Because part of it might be that they would do more to support the US dollar or stuff like that. That would be an indication that okay, I don't have to um, offload from the dollar to gold. So then,
Yeah, well, Nicholas Gibbs said that part of the reason it came down, and I haven't checked this, but Nick said it's true. I'm going to go with it. He said that they increased the margin requirement in the United States and China
mm,
over the last week.
mm,
So that obviously could cause people to. But I also told him, maybe this be interesting to you as well, and people that weren't listening last night. I knew we were really getting close to a top when I saw a picture in one of the newspapers of old folks lined up outside a gold store to get gold. It's a tell. It's an absolute tell.
mm,
Silver up a little bit also, actually almost as much as gold, but still under $50. And it was up to what, 53 or something? Anyways, down to 48 again. And copper flat, but $5. And to your point, the dollar is up, has been up all day, has been up 3 or 4 days in a row. Bitcoin, are you ready?
mm,
Down 4,000, back down to 107,895.
mm.
So Tom Lee says we're going to 200,000, right?
Right.
Maybe 250 this year.
Mhm.
But we've come down from 124 to
You
108.
can't be right every time.
You can't be right every time.
Yeah.
All right. And Ethereum down 4.89%, even more than Bitcoin at 38.10. And the futures for tomorrow. The Dow is down 0.14. The S&P is up 0.01 and the NASDAQ is up 0.03. I'd call that pretty flat, pretty
Mm.
flat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did they do today? I kind of lost track. Yeah, flattish. S&P was up 0.53. NASDAQ was up almost a full percent. I'm sorry, down. I'm sorry. They all went down. Now I remember. All of them went down like this,
Mhm.
and then all popped back up, including Tesla. And so is Tesla now? Nope, the low was 429 during the day, so it's gone below the low of the day. All right. All that's pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest takeaway are that Tesla's FSD improvements are going to come through very steady, getting to 14.2 and 14.3. And it'll be, they also said they focus on safety and
Mhm.
then the comfort. So it's step up in safety and comfort. And then they also said they didn't have the 10 times the parameters thing there. They hadn't fully gotten that in the
Right.
end, even though we have 14.1 out. They talked about the 10 times the parameters thing, which would then be another step up in the quality of the system. And then the Robotaxi, huge miles, ramping quickly, and
Right.
then no safety monitor in Austin by the end of the year, which would be basically Robotaxi solved at that point. Um,
And a programming note, Jeff Lutz will be on at about 7-ish tonight. We've already shot that. It has nothing to do with anything that happened today. Jeff, I try to only use Jeff to get to the things that he's an expert on. So I think you'll really like tonight's show. And then, Brian, do you want to say it or am I going to say it? Buy the book.
by the book.
Buy the book.
Yeah.
Brian and I have slaved over this book. And so we want you to spend your $2.95, even if you don't intend to, don't tell Amazon, but even if you don't intend to read it, we just want you to spend the $2.99 because you like us. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah. But it's a worthwhile book. We put a lot of work into it, got in a lot of other people to help us with it. So AI Rising, Age of Abundance. So a lot of quality information there. And, um, we'll have some dedicated videos where we'll interview other people about AI. We'll talk more about ourselves. And then any questions you have, from the book, come, see us on our various platforms, and then we can have discussions on that, and maybe have some dedicated reader sessions, for some kind of like YouTube or Spaces
Spaces.
kind. Yeah, so we'll have forums to discuss what's happening on one of the most important areas. Because if we solve AGI, which is a possibility that Elon talked about, even for this year, but more likely for next year, that will be a lot of changes that you want to be prepared for.
Yeah. And also, I just want to let you know if you are techie and you're afraid it might be lightweight, no, it's not lightweight. Wait till you read Larry's chapter. So half of it is techie, although we tried to make it something that everybody could get. We don't want you to be sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is too techie. So it's very high tech for half the book, but tried to make it readable. The other half of the book is more light and fun and futuristic and talking about where the jobs are going to be and what your home life might look like and all this kind of stuff. And of course, Brian is provably a futurist. He actually makes predictions and gets them right. And I think I'm a futurist. So therefore, that part of the book, that's the beginning of the book. I think you'll really enjoy a lot of the chapters on what the future is going to look like. Any last thoughts, Brian?
If you don't like us, you can get the book and then you can pick it apart.
That's
And
right.
yeah,
Dude, give us a bad review.
yeah,
Yeah.
but give us
Thanks,
the feedback.
Brian.
Tell us when we need to learn. Yeah.
What?
Tell us what we need to learn,
Tell us what we need to learn.
but
That's
read
right.
it to tell us what we need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. With
Okay.
all of that said, Brian, thanks as usual. And
Yeah.
to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.